Hi, I'm Mackenzie. I'm here to share my adoption story for the ANLC Scholarship Award. So, I was adopted straight from birth after my parents had tried for a few years to have their own baby, but the doctor said that there was only a 5% chance that my dad would ever be able to have a biological kid of his own. So, they adopted my older brother, and just a few months after my older brother's adoption was finalized, my mom was actually able to get pregnant, but it was an ectopic pregnancy, so she lost the baby. Just 2 or 3 months after that, she was actually able to get pregnant again, but once again, it was an ectopic pregnancy and the baby did not come to term. So they contacted an adoption agency and said, "We're looking to adopt again." They wanted one more kid to complete the family. They always wanted two kids. So they were going to choose the route of adoption again because they couldn't have one of their own. So the adoption agency linked them up with my birth mother, Christy, and my birth mother said that she wanted to meet whatever family was going to raise me so that she knew for sure that this was the choice that she wanted to make and that I was going to a good home. So, years later, now that I've talked to Christy about it, she tells me that the way she chose my family was she prayed before she went into the restaurant that they were meeting each other at and said something along the lines of, "Give me a sign. If there is dead air or silence or it's uncomfortable to talk to them, then this isn't the family meant to raise my daughter." So she went in to the restaurant, and evidently there was no dead air or silence because she selected my family to raise me. So my family was with her the entire time that she was pregnant and paid for the medical bills and things like that to make sure that I was healthy, and they wanted to be part of the pregnancy experience. So when Christy finally went into labor, she was apparently yelling at all the doctors to get Karen, my mom, to get Karen in the room, get Karen in the room, because she wanted my mom to be there to see me be born and be the first to hold me, which is what was exactly what happened. But first, my heart rate was dropping, and they were scared about if I was going to be okay when I came out. They thought maybe my umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck, but they weren't sure, so they ended up doing an emergency C-section. And when I came out, the doctor immediately handed me to Christy, and Christy was like, "Nope, nope, give her to Karen. I want her mom to be the first person to ever hold her." So that's exactly what happened, which I thought was so sweet and just considerate, which really set the tone for what the rest of my relationship with Christy was going to be a lot like. So, years later, now that I've talked to her some more, she tells me stories about what it was like the 3 days that she got to have me in the hospital. And since my birth father was never part of my life and he made it clear that he would never want to be a part of my life, she had her 4 best friends with her at all times in the hospital. And the day that she had to leave and leave me behind with my family, she said it was one of the hardest things she's ever done, and it took all 4 of them like holding hands to walk out of the hospital together. And apparently when she got in the car to leave, she turned around to look back at the hospital, and there was a rainbow right above the hospital, and she always felt like that was a good sign and that she made the right decision, which I agree she did. But from there I went home, and for the next 14 years it was the best. I had an older brother who was my best friend, and my parents were the best, and it was always a really supportive environment. But I never talked to Christy after that. She would always send me letters in the mail and things like that, and she was actually in the military and deployed to Iraq for most of my childhood, so she would send me little dolls and chests and things like that from all over the world wherever she was stationed at the time. So I always knew she was there, but I never met her and I never wrote any letters back. My mom would send an email once a year summarizing what was going on in my life and that I was just a happy, healthy, growing kid. But when I was 14 years old, I kind of felt like I was finally ready to meet the person who was behind all these imported dolls and things like that. So I wrote her a letter, and I deleted the letter, rewrote the letter, and deleted it again before I finally felt like I was ready to send it. But it was basically just a thank you letter for thanking her for making the right decision, even though it may have been the hard decision, because I've grown up in such a supportive environment. And I have a dad who taught me my sense of humor, and I have a brother who taught me how to stand up for myself, and I have a mom that taught me that you can be strong and sensitive at the same time, and those things can coexist. So I just thanked her for providing me with those opportunities. And she wrote back, um, just saying how grateful she was to hear from me. And we talked for a little bit, and then I said, "Would you want to meet up sometime?" And she said yes. So before you know it, I'm in the back of my parents' car driving to Wisconsin Dells to meet up with my birth mother. Um, and I remember sitting down in the Caribou Coffee that we were in and just looking across the table and realizing that for the first time in my entire life, I was looking at someone else's face and looking into someone else's eyes and realizing that they were the same as mine. It was so strange to think, like, wow, like I actually share DNA with this person, and this person is my biological family. It was such an odd feeling because I always kind of wondered who I was, but not in the same way that a lot of teenagers get to wonder who they were. It wasn't, am I an athlete? Am I a musician? Where do I fit in? But it was more, who's my dad? Will I ever meet my birth mother? Who am I on a genetic cellular level? And no one else was going through the same things around me. So I didn't know how to sort out those feelings with none of my peers going through the same thing. But I think sitting at that table cleared so many things up for me because it helped me realize who I was, because I was a 14-year-old who had the courage and ambition to reach out to my birth mother, contact her, and meet her, which is something that I know a lot of adults would never be able to even do. So it kind of made me realize, maybe my childhood was a little bit different. Maybe I don't look like my mom, but it's still an amazing family, and I'm still an amazing person because of who my experiences have built me to be. So after that, we kept in close touch and we kept meeting up a couple times a year, just hanging out until one day she emails me and says, "Kenzie, you're gonna have a brother." So she was pregnant again. And I was 16 years old, and never did in my entire life did I think that at 16 years old I would become a big sister for the first time. So I was beyond ecstatic. I had a sibling that was biologically related to me, which was just out of this world crazy. And so Liam was his name, and he was born, and I didn't meet him until he was about 6 months old because I wanted to make sure that I was ready and that I wouldn't, mess anything up. I had never even held a baby before. So I took him to the zoo, and we just hung out for the whole day, and it was just crazy to think, because I hadn't realized it until then, that this was my actual brother. He was an actual living human being and just not an idea in my mind. But no matter, I love him like so much, and he's one of the greatest blessings in my entire life, and being a big sister is more amazing than I could have ever imagined. But it was a shock that I don't think I was ready for, but life is full of shocks that you're not ready for, so I think it prepared me really well before I go off to college to like have something so huge and monumental happen in my life, because now I know how to go through that. And 2 years later, I was at her house again, and it was my birthday, and Liam comes barreling up to me with this little envelope and falls onto me laughing. He's like, "Sissy, sissy." And I was like, "What's this?" So I opened the envelope, and it was an ultrasound picture. And I was so confused at first, but then I look at Christy and I was like, "You're pregnant again," which she was. And just 3 days ago, she delivered my second little brother, Wesley. So I'm going through it all again. I'm a little bit smarter this time and know what I'm doing a little bit more, but I'm really excited to go through that again. My adoption story is, I feel like it's unique, and it's been such a blessing because I grew up with my older brother, who was the perfect example of how to be an older sibling to me. He's my best friend, he's my rock. I talk to him about everything. and he just showed me exactly what being an older sibling meant. So even though I wasn't prepared to become what at 16 years old, I think that I was better off because I got the chance to be what my older brother was to me. And I had that chance because Christy put me up for adoption. And I have that chance to be an older sibling now because me and Christy have such a unique and close relationship. And I still have such an amazing relationship with my parents who raised me, and they'll always be mom and dad to me. Thank you for taking time and listening to my story, and a special thank you to the ANLC Scholarship Committee for listening and considering me for your scholarship. I greatly appreciate it.